Please like and subscribe. In the Deep Forest. Ayan tells Vikir that she doesn't like secrets or lies. Ayan reveals to Vikir that there was another imperialist who came to the Deep Forest, and Ayan believes that their goal was Vikir. Vikir received a shock upon the sudden revelation. She looks at him with a worried face, pausing for a moment before revealing another painful information. She finally reveals to him that a certain person had came to the Deep Forest. Ayan continues to tell Vikir the honest truth. 2 years ago, when he had fought the Madame, up until now, that certain person, together with a search party, came to investigate the Deep Forest. Ayan believes that she was looking for traces of Vikir. She didn't dare to look Vikir in the eyes, and she asked him if he was going to go with her. Ayan thoughts started to go haywire. She wonders if Vikir will hate her because she had this information up till now. What would she do if he says that he'll go with her? Should I stop him from going by using the tribe's rules? These were the thoughts that ran through her mind as Vikir stood there silently. Would that even work, was the final thought she had, as Vikir finally started to open his mouth. I won't go back, said Vikir. With a stern look on his face, silence came over Ayan after hearing those words from Vikir. She stutters her words as she asked Vikir if it was true. He tells her, yeah. Ayan's face shine bright like a diamond. She hugs Vikir with joy, telling him that Vikir isn't leaving. Meanwhile, Vikir thinks about how he thought the Empire knew that he was alive. But it seems like they don't. Vikir needed to return once he was able to perfectly hide his power from Hugo without being noticed. And then he thought about the woman that Ayan had mentioned. He wonders if Ayan was referring to Kamas Morg. He continues to wonder if she has not yet forgotten that he had saved her. Or is it a part of a diplomatic event? But seeing how the Baskerville clan gave permission for the Morg search party to enter the Deep Forest, means that their alliance is still strong. Vikir wondered about if the two families form a bond through his supposed death. Vikir then decides that he should go investigate what's happening outside the Deep Forest soon, but a sudden appearance of a big ugly fish disrupts Vikir's thoughts. But Ayan and Vikir were shocked to see its sudden appearance beside them. The giant fish lands right in front of both of them. With a loud impact, water began to spill out of its mouth as it tries its best to breathe a lungfish. Ayan, with a perplexed look, she states that seeing as how it jumped out of the river. It seems like the rainy season will come soon. Judging from its size, this year's rainy season might be long, but Vikir tells her to wait as he spots something. He wonders what that arrow-looking thing is. That was poking out of the ugly fish? They decided Leicester fish like sushi to find out what it was from the inside. They were surprised to see a skeleton holding what looks like a spear from inside of the fish. Ayan looks at the skeleton and figured that it was a Lococo bastard based on the clothing, since he stabbed the fish with an arrow and there are traces of resistance. It seems that the Lococo bastard was quite surprised after being eaten. She explains to Vikir that a long fish was a stupid beast that eats dead things, but this was a little strange to her. Vikir states that the Lococo bastard might have been very weakened to the point, where the lungfish thought it was a corpse. Ayan then questions, why would such a weak person be hunting? Vikir looks at her and answers her question with the question, what if their tribe's situation is that bad? He continues to tell her that something might have happened within the Deep Forest, and that it was not a bad idea to investigate. After walking a far bit distance, Vikir and Ayan were taken back as they witnessed something that caused Ayan to shriek. The scene before them was like from hell. Dead bodies covered with red marks could be seen around the Lococo village. Vikir and Ayan had stumbled across. They wondered if all the Lococo warriors were dead. Vikir inspects the dead Lococo warriors. He sees that they had signs of vomiting and diarrhea, along with red spots, which he soon realizes what it was. Ayan then calls out to Vikir and tells him to look over there. She explains to Vikir that it was way past the time to eat. But there were no signs of fire towards Loloko's village. Human skeletons could be seen being hanged around the trees. As if it was a Halloween decoration, the Lokoko village could now be seen, but it was filled with dead silence, with no signs of life. Vikir and Ayin, along with Bakira, were now strolling through the deserted village. Vikir notes that it was strange. There were no signs of life here. Vikir notices that based on the number of weeds, it's been a while since this place has been looked after. Ayin questions whether the Lokoko tribe had moved somewhere else just as she opens the curtains to one of the tents. But as soon as she does, a whole bunch of flies came swarming out of it. A small dead body is seen hugging, the bitter body deep within the tent. Ayin shouts at Vikir that there was a corpse inside the tent. Vikir tells her that there was also one over here. He looks at all the dead bodies that were scattered around the village. The corpses in the village and the red spots seem familiar to him. Before he had regressed, there was an epidemic that spread throughout the deep forest around this time. It was called the Red Death. It was a first-class infectious disease that killed almost all the barbarians and species alike. Slowly, the infection spread so unusually quickly. Then it spread past the empire's border. Ayin tells Vikir that they need to quickly leave this place. She tells him that this was a curse. Vikir tells her not to worry since it was an infectious disease. Ayin becomes more alarmed after hearing that, as she tells Vikir that it meant that this was more serious. The two of them continued to argue throughout the village. Vikir tells her to calm down since it wasn't that contagious. Ayin continues to wonder if it really wasn't a curse. Vikir then tells her that if she was scared, she could go back first. But Ayin was worried about him dying after being cursed. Then Ayin screams at him after hearing that reply, who said, "You can go ahead and die." Her face was pissed off. Vikir thought that it was him, obviously. Vikir went on a state that from the number of corpses, it seems like the whole Lokoko tribe wasn't annihilated. They had probably moved somewhere else, leaving the dead and sick here. He then tells Ayin that he was going to take some of the usual things in their barracks, so Ayin could go first and rest somewhere. She looks at him with concern while thinking that Vikir really isn't sensitive at all. But a chill went down her spine. She turns to see what it was that sent shivers down her spine. She lets out a horrifying scream that even caused Vikir to sweat a bit as he turned to see what had happened. Vikir walks over to her. Ayin had dropped to the ground out of fear. She tells him with tears in her eyes. She points her trembling finger towards a certain direction in the village. She turns to Vikir and tells him that here was a cursed child we need to run away. She tells him to go first and that she would follow right after. But all of a sudden, Ayin yells out that her legs got a cramp. He ignores her and moves towards the so-called cursed child. He kneels in front of her to inspect her, judging from the child's appearance. Vikir noted that she didn't look like she's from a Lokoko tribe. She's about 5 years old, too. The cursed child was startled to see Vikir up close. Vikir then notices that there was a pile of rocks with a flower near it. He deduces that she was mourning someone's death. "Who are you?" asked Vikir to the cursed child. But the child remained silent for a moment before answering. "Lokoko slave kitchen maid," the cursed child said, Vikir. "Figured that she was a slave of the Lokoko tribe. What's your name?" Vikir continued to ask Pomerian. She answered Bei from her reply. Vikir figured that her name was an imperial name, and wondered if she was an imperial child who was captured by the Lokokos. But her answer wasn't complete. La Baskerville was the word she intended to enter sentence with. When she told Vikir her name, those two words alone said. Vikir, spiraling his entire world, had turned upside down as horror filled his very soul. Unable to believe what she had just said, Vikir questions her about what she just said, with her little finger pointed upwards. She points back to herself. Pomerian La Baskerville was her name, as her red eyes were revealed amongst her messy hair.